Today we will be studying about the respiratory pigments, the types of respiratory pigments that are found in the human body. Types of respiratory pigments that are found in the human body. Today we are going to discuss this topic. These respiratory pigments, they are mainly of two types. And they carry out very important functions. Write down everything. They carry out very important functions. One of the respiratory pigment is present in the blood, which we very commonly known to be as hemoglobin. And the other respiratory pigment is present in the muscles, which is generally known as myoglobin. Now, there is a difference in these two respiratory pigments, and you should expect a question in the respiratory pigments. You should expect a question in the respiratory pigments. Okay? So, isme, the question that you can expect in this is that compare, write down the question, compare the main types of respiratory pigments found in man. This is a complete short question in your board of 4 marks. We will be discussing the comparison, we will be discussing the oxygen affinity, and we will be discussing the main points that you have to write during the comparison. Take out your registers and note down these things. Let me tell you one thing, that hemoglobin is present in the blood, the first difference, and myoglobin is present in the muscles. See? Then, how much of oxygen they hold? How long can they hold oxygen? In what situation is hemoglobin going to leave oxygen, or why is myoglobin important? Now, another question that you can expect is, why does red meat look red? या हम कह सकते हैं appear red. इसका आंसर इसी में हमें मिल जाएगा. Why does red meat look red? Red color क्यों होता है? Why is red meat seen to be of red color? ठीक है, चलें जी, let us go back now. Myoglobin. We are going to study myoglobin. Myoglobin is an iron and oxygen binding protein. Remember, myoglobin is a protein. Hemoglobin is a protein. Both of them are proteins which are found in the muscle tissue of vertebrates in general and in almost all mammals. Look at it again. Myoglobin, symbol MB, is an iron and oxygen binding protein found in the muscle tissue of vertebrates in general and in almost all mammals. It is distantly related to hemoglobin, means it resembles hemoglobin. And what is hemoglobin? Hemoglobin is an iron and oxygen binding protein that is present in the blood. Be very careful. This is binding protein in the muscle, and this is the binding protein in the blood. And in the blood, where is it present? It is present in the RBCs, which are known as erythrocytes. They are known as erythrocytes, RBCs. They are known as erythrocytes. In humans, myoglobin is only found in the bloodstream after muscle injury. Myoglobin is normally present in the muscle tissue. It is not present in the blood. In human beings, if we see myoglobin in the blood, then that means that maybe some muscle of the body has been damaged, because of which myoglobin presence is seen in the blood. Now, this is not a normal situation. This is an abnormal finding. And when the doctor goes to diagnose the cause, most of the time the cause is that the muscle has been damaged due to an injury, due to a wound, due to an accident, due to a disease. Myoglobin is the primary oxygen carrying pigment of the muscle tissue. Primary means main. When we say primary, primary means main. ठीक है, प्राइमरी का मतलब होता है मेन. जब हम कहते हैं प्राइमरी, इट मींस मेन. नाउ लेट मी राइट अबाउट मायोग्लोबिन फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल. Okay. Myoglobin is mainly present in the muscles, and they say that it is an oxygen carrying capacity. It is better if we say that it is the oxygen storage mechanism. Okay? It is better if we say that it is the oxygen storage mechanism because it stores oxygen. It stores a lot of oxygen. The myoglobin. And if myoglobin is seen in the blood, then that is not a normal situation. This is abnormal, and it is said to be abnormal because it can be due to some kind of muscle injury. और ये बात क्या है? ये बात अच्छी नहीं है. It is not good. ठीक है? It is not good. ऑक्सीजन की स्पेलिंग जो है वो थोड़ी सी गड़बड़ हो गई यहाँ पर. ठीक है? ओके. ऑक्सीजन की. Now let us go back to the presentation again. You people are following the lecture. If there's any problem, please drop the questions in the message box. Myoglobin is a primary. Primary means main oxygen carrying pigment of the muscle tissue. High concentration of myoglobin. This is very important, and this is a short question also. High concentration of myoglobin in the muscle cells allows organisms to hold their breath for a longer period of time. Holding of breath. How long can you hold your breath? How long can you keep yourself from breathing in and out? It is due to the high amount of myoglobin. And which mammals have this quality? Mainly the diving mammals such as whales and seals have muscles which have a very high amount of myoglobin. Myoglobin, look at this. This is just a brief structure showing just a single strand of protein which is containing the iron substance. Binding with oxygen. This is hemoglobin, which has 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 protein rings which are holding the heme. Heme means iron and oxygen group. Now, next, the comparison. This is very, very important. Note down this. Take the screenshot if you want. Take out your registers and note them down. Okay? First of all, hemoglobin is a 4 polypeptide chain. Polypeptide, protein and polypeptide. What is the difference between a protein and a polypeptide? What is the difference between a protein and a polypeptide? G, anybody? Polypeptide and protein में difference क्या होता है बेटा? Can you give me the answer? Polypeptide means many peptide chains joined together. What is a peptide chain? A peptide chain is actually the arrangement of amino acids where we have up to 50 amino acids linked together by a peptide bond. ठीक हो गई बात? Peptide bond between up to 50 amino acids. More than 50 amino acids, then that is going to be known as a protein. यहाँ पर polypeptide, 4 polypeptide chains are held together in the hemoglobin molecule, and in myoglobin we have only 1 polypeptide chain. Then hemoglobin has 4 heme groups. Heme groups का मतलब है iron. 4 heme groups, and myoglobin has 1 heme group. 1 heme group, ठीक है, iron group. 4 oxygen will combine with each hemoglobin because these are 4 heme groups. Then 4 oxygen are going to combine with the hemoglobin. And in myoglobin, 1 oxygen is going to combine with each myoglobin. This is a very important question. Comparison of hemoglobin and myoglobin. Hemoglobin is present only on the RBCs. And myoglobin is found in the muscles of mammals mostly. It is present in the muscles of mammals. The function of hemoglobin is to transport oxygen, and the function of myoglobin is to store oxygen. Now here I need your participation. Hemoglobin is said to have a less affinity of oxygen, and myoglobin is said to have a high affinity of oxygen. Now who can explain this? If you want to speak up, just raise your hand, then I will unmute your mics. Hemoglobin has a less affinity for oxygen, and myoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen. Any answers? Just give me any answer, beta. All your answers are always welcome. There is no problem even if the answer is wrong, but you should have the confidence to speak up. Okay? When we say that hemoglobin, give me the answer. If you don't want to speak up, just give me the answer in the message. Hemoglobin has a less affinity for oxygen and myoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen. Iska kya matlab hota hai? What is the meaning of this? Gee, I have got an answer. If there is a high affinity in MB, then it is abnormal. It is abnormal. No, not like that. This is not abnormal. This is a good quality of myoglobin, that it has a high affinity for oxygen. But if myoglobin is present inside the blood, then it is an abnormal situation. Okay? Then it is an abnormal situation. यहाँ पर ये है कि oxygen is not very tightly bound to hemoglobin. Hemoglobin does not have the strength to hold oxygen very tightly for a long period of time. A little change in situation and hemoglobin drops off the oxygen, and myoglobin has the strength to hold oxygen for a very long time. Now, less affinity of oxygen in hemoglobin, just see a little bit of low oxygen pressure, 60 millimeter mercury, just a little bit of low oxygen pressure, and hemoglobin drops off the oxygen. It cannot hold oxygen longer than this. And whereas myoglobin, the affinity goes below that, far below that, up to 20 millimeter mercury. Even then myoglobin is tightly holding oxygen. Affinity ka matlab ye hai, how tightly is it going to hold oxygen. Now let us look at the comparisons again. Hemoglobin has 4 chains, myoglobin has 1 chain. Hemoglobin has 4 heme groups, myoglobin has 1 heme group. Hemoglobin can combine with 4 oxygen molecules, and myoglobin combines with 1 oxygen molecule. Hemoglobin is present on the red blood cells, and myoglobin is found in the muscles. Hemoglobin's main function is transportation of oxygen, and myoglobin main function is storage of oxygen. I told you in the previous slide that deep sea diving animals, they have a large amount of myoglobin present in the muscles because they have to use that oxygen. Then hemoglobin has a less affinity for oxygen and myoglobin has a high affinity for oxygen. Then hemoglobin can lose oxygen at just a little lower oxygen pressure, and myoglobin holds oxygen for very long time, up to 20 millimeter mercury. Even then myoglobin is holding oxygen. The next topic that we will be discussing is